I studied here at the Barnes Foundation in 1961 and 62. Each week we spent part of the afternoon wandering the galleries on our own and then listened to lectures given by Violetta de Mazia in the first year and Harry Safarbi in the second. I have fond memories of these days. Today I'll offer some observations about the works of three French artists, Matisse and Cezanne, whose work is abundant here, and Marcel Duchamp, whose works are present in the nearby Philadelphia Museum of Art. As an art student in the 1960s, I had a thorough grounding in studio practice at PAFA, where I majored in sculpture. My studies at Penn were academic, anthropology, art history, and archaeology. My recent work is conceptual. Today I will track some of the development of Matisse, Cezanne, and Duchamp from my perspective as a working conceptual artist. Interesting departure from strict adherence to traditional Western art conventions can be seen in Matisse's triptych, Three Sisters. His colors, lemon yellow, magenta, and vibrant green, echo the exotic colors used in Mughal miniatures of the 16th and 18th century in India. They were small, 5 by 8 inches or 8 by 10 inches, painted on paper, commissioned and collected by royalty, and kept in books and albums. Their color was compartmental, with highly patterned both within irregular shapes and outside them in background areas. These lively, charming little pictures were usually secular and described daily scenes and domestic activity, like the pictures of Matisse. The startling thing he did was to bring these ingredients to a European scale, a scale usually experienced in cathedrals and museums. I think of Caravaggio's large figures where saints and others tilt toward us, reaching out of their picture space. For example, the Crucifixion of St. Peter and also the painting of St. Peter and Paul. Although the curvilinear rhythms in Matisse are carefully woven together in the triptych, crossing over the arbitrary boundaries of their frames, one gets the feeling that they want to escape their enclosure as if it's too confining for them. Now his curvilinear shapes are large, graceful silhouettes frolicking, living their own acrobatic life in a new setting more open than the traditional rectangular canvas. Later, free-floating fish and foliage cut from paper, as can be seen in other venues, have escaped enframelment completely. His process of holding them in his hands for further placement on the wide open wall like leaves left by the wind contribute to the realization of a process begun in much earlier work. Sweeping curves and convolutions cut from paper colored with gouache transformed from figures of fish to leaf, forms dancing and leaping at the whim of their master. In stark contrast to Matisse, we find our second great innovator, Paul Zaizan, determined to build, construct, and position everything with irrevocable exactness and stability. Let's look at the male bathers with Mount Saint-Victoire behind them. There is an extraordinary stillness and silence to this painting. Each figure is self-contained and anchored to his position, standing straight and solid, almost like a chessman, waiting eternally to be moved to the next square. These figures echo the mountain itself. Rocky outcrops rhyme with elbows and folded arms, especially the man positioned in a triangle of light with arms above his head, conforming to an elongated pyramidal stance. Perhaps this is a variation of the pyramids present in card players, whose contemplation is made monumental by them. His process is methodical, like a chess player or card player. We can appreciate his relentless process of discovery by examining versions of Mount Saint-Victoire. He seems to have painted it every day with subtle variations each time. Rectangular patches of color move about the mountain melodically, almost as if a cellist were playing a Bach suite, and every day savoring small changes in placement and duration of notes placed in space. I find the quarry walls and trees and the Mount Saint Victor variations amongst the most lyrical sequences of painting available to us in the canon, so light and transparent, but floating in space with steadfast determination, having claimed it as their own. In these and other late landscapes, conventional pictorial rules and restrictions have been bypassed in order that his perceptions can be ambient and descriptive of the mobile, changeable nature of thought and vision manifested through the medium of paint and color. A look at the all-blue Saint Victor without trees pulses with life's variable current because it is so analogous to the ever-changing surface of the ocean. I call the following groups of work nature studies. My current work emphasizes process. Although it involves physical materials, craftsmanship, and product are of minor interest to me. Objects with the ability to evoke ideas through the presence of metaphor, gesture, and form are the basis of my inquiry. I like to set up a situation in which chance and randomness can thrive. It's here that old questions can be confronted and new ones can arise. I utilize sticks and cloth for this. Unlike most conceptualists, I work with my hands, moving peeled tree branches into unexpected configurations that are then combined with flows of bulging cloth. The sticks become convenient perches for the cloth, where a form can cling and nestle as if protected. Other times, it may provide a launch location for a tumbling, cascading form. Controversies and contradictions arrive during this process. Ironies are manifested. Definitions are challenged. Questions come into mind. How do objects condition our behavior and influence our lives? When does a branch or stick become a line, reminiscent of the growth that contributed to the life of the tree? Is it recording the process of a life form reaching for light amidst the shade and reflected color of nearby foliage? How do shadows cast by nearby large trees affect the curves and turnings of youthful branches? What leads a form to cluster with others, sometimes imitating a dolphin or walrus? Do all birds have wings? It required all the elements working in unison to form a branch: earth, water, sunlight, air, and nutrients deriving from ancient rocks and minerals. How does it happen to be crooked, twisted, long and smooth, forked and angled, thick and strong? Somehow it found its way into my studio, where it can be part of human history and thought. You might think that the image behind me is Mount Saint Victor in Provence, France. Surprise! It's Mount Mastodon in Victoria, Australia, where I'm visiting my family while my son helps me to construct this video. The image, which serendipitously corresponds to Cezanne's Saint Victor, was taken by drone in 2019. Here are a few samples of my Mount Mastodon paintings on paper. They reverse the process of Cezanne's Mount Saint Victor. I walked its trails and went home to my studio and remembered my path as a map-like diagram, which then transformed itself into an unplanned, newly discovered shape, one that I had not seen before until it appeared in a recording process based on personal physical experience. If so inclined, I can now use it as a guide for another walk, thereby instigating a second artwork, a concept of a concept. It is interesting to note that both Cezanne and Duchamp depicted games and their players. Games involve thoughtfulness, care, and chance. While participating in a predefined set of parameters, possibilities outside them and violation of them crop up. Participation in the game makes them noticeable so that they can become a channel of exploration. Cezanne's shuffled quarry walls, some of which are fractured and shard-like, have a visual and conceptual similarity to the nude descending the staircase. And there is, of course, evidence that Cezanne was an inspiration and departure point for some of Duchamp's early work. See his painting A Family Relaxing next to a chess table with Game in Progress. Cezanne's monumental card players gaze without interruption at the tiny rectangles they hold in their hands. In his late landscapes, rectangles of color are contemplated as they are moved in ever-changing positions that reflect the movement of the mind as it seeks decisions and resolutions to life's potential. In Matisse's late work, he holds in his hands irregularly shaped cards cut from colored paper. These leaf-like shapes he scatters carefully on an immense white surface in celebration of the dance of life. Duchamp's turning point, pun intended, can be witnessed in the bicycle wheel mounted on a drafting stool, which is thought to be his first ready-made, whose flickering and spinning he found to be pleasant, like watching the flames in a hearth. At approximately the same time, in 1913, he found the chocolate grinder, also with turning, moving parts. In relation to these works, he talks about the beauty to be seen in engineering drawings, whose precision and impersonal rendering eliminate handwork as the primary value in paintings. Thus, he emphasizes the role of artist as thinker instead of craftsman and product maker. The chocolate grinder is an important player in the large glass, a monumental work of this period. Due to an accident during its transport by truck to its owner, there are a series of cracks in its surface. These he values, because he could not have made them happen that way if he planned it. This awareness both predates and prophesies a prominent technique in abstract expressionism and remembers an ingredient in Renaissance work about which he was an expert. Leonardo in his notebooks talks about the stains on walls and ceilings that inspire new drawings and images. My work embraces my childhood games of pick-up sticks and youthful investigations of the I Ching, whose yarrow sticks comment on possibility and chance. The conversations that I find among the lines left behind by tree branches and their ongoing interaction with the biomorphic forms I present them with partake of the same recording and assertion of process as art objects that we enjoy witnessing in the works of Cezanne, Matisse, and Duchamp. We are all conceptualists.